Good evening and welcome to the Murray City Municipal Council meeting for March 7th, 2023. I'm Diane Turner and I will be conducting this evening. I'm just coming off a cold, so that's why I sound kind of weird. Anyway, for the opening ceremonies, I would appreciate it if you guys would turn off your cell phones, and I would like to welcome you all. It's good to see so many of our citizens here. That's awesome. We have all council members present, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Patty Johnson will be conducting. Patty is our council member, does everything.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Patty. All right, first we have approval of minutes for the council meeting for February 21st, 2023. Are there any changes?
No.
No.
Okay, if not, I would appreciate a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the council meeting minutes for February 21st, 2023.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Motion passes unanimously. Now we are at our citizen comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If you would step to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and fill out the required form that Jennifer has for you. We have also a public hearing tonight, and that will be next, but this is for citizen comments. So anyone who would like to comment to the council, this is your time.
I was timid about being first with all these people. I thought somebody would jump up. Well, I know you guys are all here in
Would you state your name and city of residence?
Sorry, my name's Mary Evans. I live in Midvale, just next to the Fashion Place district of Murray, so neighbors. We're close neighbors. I'm here in regards to the Murray City building that's being built. I understand that the mayor's office is having the building in process, and we're still ordering furniture and getting all the final things before it's opened. I'm here to remind you in regards to providing safe facilities for individuals who are brought into police's custody. In regards to a DUI pullover, I've verified that mobile breathalyzer devices are not permissible in court, and so police's procedure is to bring them back to this city building. And they do that even if an individual refuses to provide their sample or their breathalyzer, and it ends in a DUI result regardless if an individual refuses. So I'm asking to maybe change the procedure and have those individuals, have the option to not come to this building that isn't, that's new, and maybe we'll have safe things like handcuffs on top of the table instead of behind your back in a small chair, as that aggravates when your hands are losing circulation and police officers are unable to loosen the cuffs or unwilling due to whatever inner reasons they have to. I'm asking for furniture to not be protruding corners, maybe having shelving units not in this room as they're trying to get evidence, maybe having safe facilities. I'm requesting that the city council provide and allot funds in order to make these changes, as the furniture's already been ordered and it seems as though most things are already in motion. But I understand in recent events that some facilities need some updates, and I'm happy that you guys are moving out of this building to prevent future problems with things that work in your offices, but citizens come to this DUI processing room, and I would love if you guys would provide safe facilities so that individuals can come home safely after interactions with police. That's what I had to say, so thank you very much.
Better turn this on. Any more citizen comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, we will continue on. All right, now we don't have a consent agenda, but we do have a public hearing. And that is to consider an ordinance amending sections 17.170.120, comma, 17.170.140, comma, and 17.170.160 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the Murray City Center District Zone. And that is all we will be considering tonight. So Jared Hall will be presenting. Jared, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And as you said, we're only going to be talking about several things specifically tonight, and I wanted to just begin by mentioning those. 17170 is the chapter, the Murray City Center District in the zoning ordinance, and several of those sections of code we're talking about tonight. I have heard there's been lots of talk about different things we might be doing, saving the building here, et cetera. This is property that's owned by the RDA. So I just wanted to begin by making sure that we're clear about what we're talking about tonight. This property is owned by the RDA, and some of the changes that we're talking about tonight affect this property directly. None of those changes involve historic preservation. None of them affect that at all. So those are conversations that we can have in the future as the RDA considers proposals for purchase of the building or other options. But tonight we're going to focus on three things that the Planning Commission forwarded recommendations to you about. They involve height, parking, and landscaping and open space. And those are the only items that we've proposed changes to at this time. And we'll go through those in some detail. They do impact parts of the MCCD zone. They are limited right now to certain areas of the MCCD zone where this property that we're sitting in tonight is sited as well. So talking about that, you can see in this outline here, this is the section that we have identified to say these changes that we're talking about tonight will only impact this part of the MCCD zone, that part of the MCCD zone that lies south of Vine Street and east of State Street. The MCCD zone does kind of encompass the whole traditional downtown of Murray and a little bit beyond that to the west as well. But those sections would not be impacted yet. We do have other changes that we're working on that we'd be bringing forward in the near future regarding the entirety of the zone. But right now tonight we're just talking about height, parking, landscaping, open space in that area east of State Street, south of Vine Street. Let's talk about height regulations. These are relatively simple changes that we've been working on, and the Planning Commission forwarded in January. Currently in this area and throughout the MCCD zone, generally speaking, buildings are not to exceed 10 stories or 135 feet in height. The proposal is that buildings in this area, south of Vine Street and east of State Street, would not be allowed to exceed 6 stories or 70 feet in height. During the Planning Commission discussion that was asked why we would have a height restriction that included both stories and height, and that's because in this picture right here you can see 2 3-story buildings. Those are both 3-story buildings, but they're significantly different in height. People use different heights for different stories, for different purposes of building, et cetera, so we wanted to have 2 different limitations so that there's a lesser than component to the requirement. Height in this area, 6 stories or 70 feet. The next thing that we did propose and the Planning Commission forwarded as a recommendation to you is that we increase the parking that's required for residential units in this area of the MCCD zone by a half a space per residential unit. So currently right now, for example, a residential studio apartment is required to have 1 space per unit. That would be increased to 1.5 spaces per unit in this downtown zone. Does that make sense? Just making sure that it's pretty simple and it goes across the board for residential. It doesn't impact commercial requirements. Landscaping and open space, the thinking is to increase the amount of open space and landscaping that we require for projects in the MCCD zone. It's 15% right now. We proposed moving that to 25% overall. And this part does get a little bit complicated, so let me make sure I help you understand. So we wanted to do 2 things with this requirement. The one thing was to increase the overall requirement for landscaping so that people in more crowded environments and higher density environments have more access to public open space they can use. So 25% overall. Without compromising kind of the water conservation standards that we need to be sensitive to throughout the valley and in Murray as well. So turf is not allowed to be more than 25% of that open space. Right now, we have a limit on turf and open space, but it's 50%. We would make that less. And that 25% limitation would also be, they'd be required to show that that's purposeful use of grass. So it would be for playing fields or an open space that people can picnic on or something. It wouldn't just be beautified landscaping, like, for example, in a park strip or in a front setback of a building that's not really usable. Usable open space can contain up to 25% turf, but no more than that. And then again, we did want to write in one exception for that. And this is, we tried to use a kind of an example of something that might be turf, where the public would have access to that open space, not just people that lived in a project or were part of a project or visiting a project, but the public generally. So specifically thinking about maybe along Little Conwood Creek or something like that, in these areas where the public might have access to the creek and there would be some use of lawn. It's hard to anticipate what that might be, but we didn't want to exclude that possibility. So you could get an exception from the Planning Commission in a design if you were showing that the public would have access to your open space. Does that make sense? Okay. Those are, in a nutshell, the 3 areas that we're proposing changes to. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval to you. We are still recommending approval as staff. And again, these are changes that would allow us to limit the height, increase that landscaping, and increase the parking standards a little bit and make us more comfortable with this area of the MCCD zone as we go forward looking at other changes in the rest of the zone as well.
Okay, so there are the 3 main issues, and that's what we are considering tonight.
Correct. We have not tackled other things in this particular section of code. Right now, these are the 3 things we're proposing.
Great.
Are we able to ask questions?
I'm going to open it to the public right now. Okay, so this is a public hearing, so I would like to open the public portion. And this is for public comment. You will have 3 minutes to state your concerns, opinions, whatever. And then Jennifer will let you know when that time's up. Also fill out a form that she will give you. And so we can start right now.
Hello, I'm Clark Bullen. I live in District 3. So in discussing with many of you, it is my understanding that if these 3 simple changes are approved, then the property will be marketed to those interested in purchasing it with this zoning in mind. The RDA already decided to sell this property. They already contracted with a realtor, and that realtor is waiting for the go-ahead to market this property. Now, the only thing that determines how the property is marketed, based on my understanding and my conversations, is that how the zoning is set up. Now, if the zoning is set up with 80 units per acre, then we are putting it out on the market that you can put 80 units per acre on a 6-acre property, up to 480 units. If we don't want this to become an apartment complex, then we should consider doing less density or removing the density and making it a commercial-only property, if that's what we'd like to see, if that's what the RDA would like to see. Now, I've talked to many on the RDA who are also on the council. It's the same people serve on both. And from my conversations, it does seem like a 6-story, 480 apartment complex right here in historic downtown isn't what you want to see. But I've been coming to these things for a while now, and it's my experience that there's a sense of momentum and also a sense of getting things done. And if we get 6 months down the road and we have 4 offers from developers who want to pay us top dollar to put a 480 apartment complex on this property, I see that being a hard thing for the council to say, no, actually, we didn't want apartments, even though it was zoned that way. Now, if we remember all the comments that were made when the Edelin Project did an open house survey, there were many against putting high density in downtown, and that's just down the road. That was only 262 apartments, and this could be potentially 480 apartments. And if you read the comments in the survey, the citywide survey that was done, a good portion of those comments, I'd say 70%, specifically mentioned not wanting any more high density. And it was a downtown survey, and they indicated by touching a map that they considered this to be downtown. And I wanted to read you from part of that survey. It says 939 Murray residents were sampled from randomly selected households within city boundaries. Survey limitations to participate online were distributed via mail, email, and text message invitations, and interviews were completed online. And it says the data were weighted to reflect demographics of residents in Murray City, specifically with regard to age, gender, race, home ownership, and city council district.
Clark?
Thank you. So please consider reducing or removing the density. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark.
Hi, my name's Margaret Paul. I'm the retired planner. And
Where are you from, Martha?
well, my name's Margaret.
I'm Margaret. I'm sorry.
I
Margaret.
used to live in Murray. Right now I rent in Holiday.
Thank you.
But anyway, I wanted to give you a touch of history. I met with Tim Tingey at a meeting at the Wasatch Front Regional Council almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, about the development of downtown Murray. And, you know, here we are 18 years later, and downtown Murray still hasn't developed. So, you know, I want you council members to take a minute and understand that this is going to be your legacy. Whatever happens on this property impacts the character of Murray as people both come here to shop or drive up and down State Street. And the developer and the realtor are going to be long gone. But you guys are perhaps still going to be serving on the council, still going to have your historic community ties that got you elected. And this decision is going to be there for 50 to 100 years. So whatever happens on this property is really critical, really critical. And I'm also concerned that the developer and the realtor are using the same need assessment that was generated that ended up financing the other high-density projects in the area. So I'm just imagining that the absorption of all these apartment buildings that are under construction right now in Murray are going to take a lot longer than anyone is anticipating, and that this property is going to end up being an eyesore for the next 10 years while it's under construction, unoccupied. Similarly, the property right over there has been under construction for years and years. So I would recommend that you treat this more like a phased approach and only release a portion of the property at a time. I mean, it would be great if we could get a drugstore there. I would think that the hospital being across the street could use a little pharmacy in the vicinity rather than making people go to 56 and 9th. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Moreau. I am here in the capacity of the Vice President of the Historic Murray First Foundation, and as such, I would like to take 5 minutes because I'm speaking for a group. I would like to begin with saying that I'm really encouraged and glad that we have so many citizens that have come out to this meeting. Our foundation's worked very hard to get people to engage in the process, and that's important, whether it's for something like this or whether it's for something in another district of the city. It should matter in all the districts. And it's really great that so many of you have made the time to come out, and I would encourage you to not be shy about standing up and making your comments because it's very important. A number of things I wanted to point out that for anybody on the council or in the administration that is confused about what a historic building is in terms of age, the National Park Service lists that National Register of Historic Places is sorry, I lost my page here. Generally, properties eligible for listing in National Register are at least 50 years old. This building, it was built in the 1930s, so it is definitely a historic building. I would also like to say that our foundation, in advance of this, has done an informal in-house survey of a few questions that we put out on social media, and we asked citizens what they would like to see go in this building in the case that it is saved, deed restricted by the council and saved for adaptive reuse purposes. We got a number of replies, and the majority would like to see this turn into commercial and retail space. The second most common response was, that was at 42%. The second most common response was for a community center at 29%, and the third option was 16% for affordable housing, and there was 13% that would like to see it turn to any other purposes than the three that we offered. There is a public will for this building to stay standing, and we realized that it's serving a number of purposes. It's important in its own right, as this is a historic building and should be continued to be reused and to serve the city and the citizens. And it can be done. That can be done. I understand also that it is a hindrance to those that would like to have it removed so that they can put up new things that are bigger and have more capacity. So depending on what side of the equation you're on, it is an important question. And I have also spent a lot of time trying to get people to comment, and those that could not make the meeting tonight, there are a few that asked me to read their comments, and I don't know if those also need to be submitted in writing or photograph of that, some kind of proof, but one gentleman that offered to let me read his comment is named Lynn Olson. He said, "I bet the current city leaders haven't considered the hundreds of us who grew up in Murray a long, long time ago that went to Arlington, Hillcrest, and Murray High that still drive by or visit Murray for various reasons. We care a lot how Murray was and still should be. The new complex on Vine Street is so out of place, it is crazy. It will be a sad day if Arlington comes down. Sounds like the majority wants Arlington to dodge the wrecking ball. The city leaders should pay a visit to Main Street in Helper, Utah." I would also recommend that. They've done a beautiful job of keeping their historic character. I would like to finalize my comments by reminding you that as City Council and wearing the dual hats of City Council and RDA, RDA owns many properties in Murray, but RDA owns them with the taxpayers' money. Government never generates anything on its own. It only has funds from what it takes from the tax-paying citizens. And those are the citizens that vote for you. As such, you have the responsibility to be the voice of citizens whose money you are choosing to spend on projects around the city. And that is just a reminder I would like to make to the council and to all in attendance. And those who will be listening, government never generates money of its own. It only has what it takes in taxes. So please feel empowered that you have a voice, that you can stand up and you can say what needs to be said about what you want to see in your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. And you are representing the Murray Historic Foundation. Thank you.
My name is Wayne Brandolino. I live in Murray City here.
What was your name again, Reed?
Wayne,
Oh, Wayne.
like Bruce Wayne.
Gotcha.
Keep it quiet, though. I don't want to. Anyway,
What is your last name?
Brandolino. It's
Wayne
Italian.
Randolino. Thank you, Wayne. Go ahead.
Bet. I'm very confused about this rezoning thing. I talked to Clark and I talked to Janice and trying to, get my head around it. But bottom line is we got a density situation here already that's, in my mind, driving us toward Salt Lake City, I guess. I mean, do we want to build another Salt Lake City here? I mean, I guess that's what I'm thinking, because in fact, every time I turn around, it seems like another apartment building's going up. I mean, South Salt Lake's doing it. We've done it across the tracks. And of course, the one where the old church was. And then I'm right next to the 5-story senior apartment complex there, right behind the Hilton. Is that Hilton? Yeah. Home 2. I've been thinking about hanging out there, making my home too. Any rate, we just got, this density situation. I mean, what it's going to cost to service these people? I mean, where is the generation of income, I guess, from these folks? Are they going to be able to afford to live here? Or we just have, I don't think a lot of high-end people are going to want to be in this kind of dense situation. And we've got the park, which is great, but with all the people we've already added and will be adding, what's the city going to be like? What's the crime rate going to go to? What's it going to cost to manage crime in our city? And the historical aspect, I think, is great for us to maintain Murray as the place to live. I've talked to many people that said Murray's the best place in the valley, in the state. And if we change that and make it another Salt Lake City, it's not going to be the same. So at any rate, that's my comments at this point. And I feel like we need to do something different than, as Clark said, the momentum is going in the wrong direction, I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Randolino. We appreciate your comments.
My name is Sally Miller. I'm in District 3. And I got an email to participate in the survey. And my understanding from everything that I've read, the majority wants Murray to look more like the historic Holiday, not high-rise buildings. And so I'm kind of wondering how, when I saw this going from a 10-story proposal to a 6, why aren't we going from 6 to 3 stories and keeping it not high rises and high density? So that's one of the questions I would, why are we even proposing a 6-story or 70 feet? And why wouldn't we make it down to a 3 or 4 if that's what the majority of Murray wants? Plus, I feel like having, when we have apartment complexes, there's never enough parking. And I often wonder what's going to happen with Vine Street if there's, my understanding, 100 units and we have 107 parking places. I have a son that owns a townhome in Orem, and it's by the university, UVU, and he rents each one of his rooms. He has 2 parking spaces. He pays for a third, and so the other tenant has to find another one. If we're going to have 3-bedroom apartments, you're going to need 3 spaces. I kind of laugh at the 1.05 or 1.5 for 2. There's never enough parking in Murray. And where is the parking going to be on Vine Street? It's going to be in the neighborhoods that are there. Now, I don't live on Vine. I'm off of 48 and 5th East. But I don't think anybody on Vine's going to want parking in their neighborhoods. That's always been, to me, an issue in Murray. I own a home in a commercial building off of 48 and where they built all the condos around 300 East, and there's parking on the street there. So 300 West, 300 West. Thanks. That's my better half. Parking's always an issue, I think, in Murray, and it needs to be addressed. You're not going to have a 3-bedroom apartment and not need 3 spaces. I've seen it. They have the issues in Orem, like I said. But if we're going to make it so it's a place that's historic, having a high-rise buildings and apartments, build them at the R.C. Willey spot, or the Kmart's huge enough. Do we want that here? My opinion is I don't think most of the residents do. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
My name is Arvil Evans. I live in Murray, just down here. My wife and I moved here approximately, let's say 42 years ago. We lived in Salt Lake City. We bought a brand new home. And we loved our home, and we had our first child there. And what they did is they built, in our neighborhood, they built high-density high-rises. And what happened because of that is that my home was robbed numerous times, vandalized. I ended up losing my homeowner's insurance because my homeowners said that was enough. And they would harass my wife, the people from the complex. We were young, we were in our 20s, and and it just ruined our lives there. So what I did is, because of that, I had friends that were police officers that are now retired, and I talked to them and said, what's this? And I'm going to tell you exactly what they told me. These buildings like this, high-density high-rise, these are penitentiaries without bars. So you need to move. We moved. It wasn't maybe 2 or 3 months. We moved, left the area. And we came to Murray. And after that experience, that's pretty common. There was my best friend lived just on the other side of the fence from us, and he moved too. And he moved to Murray, just right across the street, 54th from us. So this has been a sanctuary for us here in Murray. We've raised our children here. Our oldest daughter that we brought to Murray with us from Salt Lake, she went to Arlington. Last year she was here. That was open. And this, I cannot even say how wonderful of a place Murray is to live. After my experience with the high rises and those buildings there, it was terrible. And people talk about the history. I have roots here in Murray. My grandfather's buried in the Murray City Cemetery. And my ancestors lived here in the 1800s. So I have roots here. And to see, I mean, I know my ancestors would not approve of this. And I don't approve because I know what's going to happen. And that's just my experience, and I'm very sorry. It makes me very nervous to get up here and talk about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Hi, I'm Janice Strobel in District 3, and I don't want to lose this because I've been invited to read a comment that was submitted after the 5 p.m. deadline last night. And this was actually addressed to Councilmember Markham because they are in the District 1, Greg and Nicole Jensen. Dear Councilmember Markham, we are writing to express our concerns for both the old Murray City Hall and potential plans for the former AISU building, 1,200 apartment units, in preparation for City Council meeting today's date, 3/7/2023. With the proposed residential increases, we are concerned not only for the safety of our community, but the amount of traffic, use of our natural resources, strain on our power grid with air conditioning in the summer, the increased wear and tear of the infrastructure, as well as taking the hometown feel away from our community by filling it with so many apartment complexes. And we are requesting for you to vote no for these proposals and keep Murray a small community. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Greg and Nicole Jensen. I know that if things don't change in some form at some time, what could be built here, if the RDA and the council were ready, is a 10-story unit. So I appreciate that the council is wanting to create some better harmony with our historic downtown than what a 10-story unit would be. But when we keep the density there and okay, let's see. When we do zoning, we're wanting, my understanding anyway, is we're wanting it to meet what we see as a city is what we want for that area, and that it also complements the surrounding areas that may be zoned differently. And I guess the big question I have is this revised zoning that's being proposed for this area complying with the vision for our downtown? This is our downtown. Is it what citizens have stated they would like to see for downtown? If we do zoning like with the max that this current zoning revision allows, that is what the builders and developers will want to build because they feel that you've created the zoning that you're ready to be put in this property, on this property. So think about that. I don't know if you're going to do deed restrictions when you meet as an RDA for this property, but anyway, thank you for your time.
Ms.
Thank you,
Strobel,
Janice.
I just wanted to let you know I did receive the email late this afternoon, and I have replied to her prior to the meeting. So,
But we hope that it could be as part of the public record also.
sure, that's fine.
Hi, my name's Mary West. I live behind Murray High School on Washington Avenue. I've been living here since 1990. My husband is from here. I'm not. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. That's a city. That's a city with mixed density. That's a city with a lot of traffic and a lot of people. I like it here. I like to hear because it's a small community. When they built the tracks, okay, there was some issue about it, but it was convenient. I could cross the street, walk from my house, cross the street, 50, 400, whatever they call the street, and go to tracks, and it drops me off right at my work. However, I can't cross the street because they try to kill you when you try to cross the street. And it's going to get that way on State Street with all these apartment complexes. And then they took down the only pedestrian walk so that the kids can't even cross over without risking getting hit. I mean, I'm from a big city, and trust me, traffic is something not to joke about. And I'm tolerating the hospital and Lifelight, you know, but if we put another big, huge monstrosity in here and take away the quaintness of Murray, then it's just totally, since 1990, so much has changed that it's, it's maintained some of its quaintness still, even with, all the improvements. But if you put a big building here, people are going to drive through, and there is not going to be no downtown. They're going to say, oh, what was that place I just drove through? A big department store or mall or whatever, it's not going to be no city, because there's not going to be anything to identify us as Murray City. And I've been up here before complaining about the traffic and almost getting killed trying to cross the street. It's like a dead horse I'm beating to death. But you guys, if they live in these complexes, you're going to have old people, young people. How are they going to cross the street? Really? You've seen the traffic out here. They don't care. They're turning, they want to turn. They don't care if you're in the crosswalk. There's a little old lady, she didn't even make it across, and the light's blinking, and the cars want to go because the light's changing. She can't make it across the street. So think about, the decision you make as far as how many more mixed density apartment buildings we got to have here. And that's pretty much, I'll get off my horse now.
Thank you, Mary.
My name is Emily Fischio, and I'm in District 2, and I'm terrified. Sorry. There's cameras here and everything, and I'm just like, oh, but I have lived in I just moved back to Murray in 2020. My parents have lived here for like 50 years. They lived right off of Atwood. Sorry, I'm terrified. So I grew up in this neighborhood, walked to Parkside, and anyway, I would really like to see, I'd really like to see, there was a comment made about, this is your legacy to make sure that this city stays kind of a quaint city and a small city, and not necessarily small. I know that change needs to happen, but I forgot what I was going to say. But I do think that if you could please consider making this an area where there's not a lot of traffic. We don't build something where there's a lot of traffic, where we kind of keep. I think that citizens grow up here and then they come back because they love Murray. It's just like it's embedded in us. But I think that coming here and moving back, it's just, the traffic is a lot worse than I ever remember. Trying to get to Starbucks is like a joke some mornings, and the Chick-fil-A and everything, and it's just like, holy cow. But I came here from Salt Lake City. They're building a lot of high-rises down there. You feel closed in, like we have mountain views, like it's beautiful. You can see Mount Olympus. Like I just don't want to close in our downtown with more high-rises. I think that this building could be something a lot better than it is. Than what is proposed. I don't think that, I think we could be thoughtful in how we do it. And I am sorry, this is horrible, and it's on video. So there you go. This is my first time doing this and probably my last. Anyway, I'll just email from now on. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Emily. And I hope it won't be your last.
Yeah, we're glad you came. Thanks, Emily.
Emily, I got your email. And I just asked our executive director if I could read it, and she is saying, because you spoke, but I do have your email. I printed it off. Thank you for emailing me.
Okay, let's continue on.
Hi, I'm Marcy West Rainierson.
Where do you live, Marcy, in
I
Murray?
actually live in Taylorsville. I have longed to get back to Murray. I grew up behind Murray High School.
Welcome, Marcy.
All the years growing up here, Murray was the heart of the valley. And there's not much left of it. As I drive through, this area is about the only things I really recognize. And it just breaks my heart to think that it's going to be considered to be taken out. Another thought is bringing in masses of people. We are facing water shortages. What are we going to do? Just bring more people in that consume and waste water. And then what are we going to do when we don't have it? That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Stefanik. I'm in District 3. I actually live in the old 400, the buildings that we were about trying to get destroyed about a year ago, I think it was, the 4800 block. I live in those apartments, and I just wanted to say that I'm here that this building should not be destroyed. It should not be torn down for a high rise. I moved here 4 years ago into those very apartments by being outpriced by Salt Lake because of high rises. The last thing I want to do is be outpriced by a place that reminds me of where I grew up and how this place makes me feel more at home than going on a plane and flying home myself. This makes me feel safe. I feel safe here. I feel wonderful here. Every time I wake up in the morning, I can see the mountains in the morning out my window. I get out, I smell the somewhat crisp, clean air. But putting a high rise in here, growing up where I did, there wasn't a high rise. And moving to a town where I had high rises and getting priced out, I can tell you right now, all these people in here, if they're renting, will be priced out. And you'll lose your feeling of a nice, comfy place and get replaced by crime and a bunch of other things. Because where I got priced out of, it was nice in the first 3 months I lived there. High rises started coming in and all the crime started showing up. And I don't want to see that in Murray. And I don't want to see that anywhere, really. But that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Robert.
Hi, my name is Craig Bennett. I live in that little pink spot right up there. I don't know what district it is. We moved here in 1955, so if anybody else has been here older than me. Oh, okay, all right. I've been called out, but I've been here a long time. Other than 20 years, I was in the military. I lived in a number of other countries. And where did I come back? To roost here in Murray City. In the 70s, I was a dispatcher for Murray City in the police department when it was way down on the other side of 53rd South. Cal Gillen was the police chief, and we could use tin cans to talk back and forth on the radio to dispatch everybody. It was just a nice little community. We had a really good time here. Other than Murray City, and I went to this school, Arlington Elementary. We'd had our little fights with West High and with Hillcrest, but other than that, it was a really good time to be here. And I had a lot of good friends here. And so I have come back here to probably die in the house that I'm at right now. And I would hate to see the high rise myself. I guess we're leaning toward that way. But I see the power grid, I don't know what percentage or capacity it's at, the water, the sewer, and things like that. And the police department's going to put a strain on them also. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Liberty Close. I'm in District 1. I just really want you to keep it. I think putting any type of housing here would be detrimental to their surrounding area. I think that we could make this a beautiful place for the citizens to come without all the traffic that high density or any housing would bring. I'm not against to bringing in houses. I'm not. People need a place to live, but we also need to be mindful about our history. And I think that there's a place for that as well. Bringing down historic buildings and that are close to parks where we've already put lots of housing. We're going to be putting more housing. I mean, if you put 480 apartments here, the only way out is Vine Street. And I just about got killed coming off the little side street here from somebody trying to make left. So what's going to happen? We put up 480. Oh, we need new road infrastructure, whatever. Who's going to pay for that? The taxes? The citizens are going to pay for that as well, for something that we don't want. And honestly, too, I grew up here. I've lived here most of my life. I think about going to Ken Price as a little girl, watching my brothers, watching my little boy play ball there. You build any high rise here, it's going to overshadow that. And I think about, okay, World Series, Little League World Series will never come back here. And you want to put in some huge parking structure for all of this in Ken Price, you can say goodbye to anything nice around here. And that's what worries me is traffic, and it's just not the right space for it. I live on the west side, right? Murray Crossing, all that. My mom lives on Atwood. I have to strategically plan my day around when I can come see her without spending 20 minutes to get from my house to her house in rush hour traffic. It's just, the roads aren't meant for high density or any density like that. So that's just my thoughts. I think we should make it beautiful for the community and make it a place that we can gather and keep it the small downtown feel. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we have no further comments, we received several emails, and Jennifer has made sure that all council members have received them and have read them, so they will be made part of our record, correct, Jennifer? Okay, so rather than reading all of them, if you want to read them, they will be part of our record, and she can let you know how to access them. Okay, with that,
Councilman Turner,
I will close. With that, I will close the public hearing. Okay, and now we will turn it over to the council for comments and right now comments, and then eventually a motion.
Okay, I received some personal emails in my district. One is from Sue and Larry Wilson. Greetings, Pam. I'm writing to input my opinion on the disposal of the Arlington building. I would like to see the option of the city keeping the building as a community center that could be used for a variety of community classes, game rooms, events, possibly even a basketball or pickleball court or two. Selling the building to a developer may be more lucrative in the short run, but I believe the city should retain this property as a resource for our community. Its proximity to Murray Park and the Murray Theater with frontage on State Street makes it ideal for this purpose. I think we all agree that additional parking is needed once the theater reopens, and Arlington has that. It is my opinion that high-density housing, I will not say affordable housing, is not the highest and best use for this property. As the property owner, Murray has a rare opportunity to choose what will happen with this prime real estate. The time has come to give the citizens of Murray the community center they have been waiting and needing for many years. Oh, yes. You know I love our city, and I'm hopeful the city council will hear us and do what's needed to keep the Arlington building. This is from Janice Wookert in my district also. I'm sending this text as an official message concerning the tearing down of the Murray City building and replacing it with high-density apartments. Please do not allow this to happen. I'm all for remodeling, updating, improving the historical building, and finding better uses for the building and property. This is from Karen Robertson. I love that building, and not just for the memories. I think it's a beautiful building, and I love how it's set back from the street with all the grass and trees. But from what you've said about its structural issue, it doesn't sound feasible to attempt to restore it. That makes me sad, and I will miss it. And I think I was waiting for one more, but she did not get it to me in time, so I will end that.
Okay. Also, if you have questions of Jared as well.
I have several questions, but Phil, it looks like you're about.
Go right ahead, please.
Okay. So, Jared, with the changes that we're proposing, how do you feel like the changes are supported by the Y2 survey that we had done and reviewed?
There are a lot of things in that Y2 survey. The thing that stands out to me, honestly, the most is that the overwhelming consensus of the people that were surveyed about downtown was that it needs to be redeveloped. But that's been the overwhelming consensus of citizens in Murray for a long time. So I do think it supports that because it allows us to, Mr. Bullen said it pretty well, it allows us to feel a level of comfort to move forward now with marketing the property. That does not mean, I do want to point out just really quickly, that does not mean that we're considering tearing down the building in those changes. That's a whole other consideration that can be taken as we review proposals. Right now, we've not felt comfortable enough as a city to move forward to get those proposals and see what we like and don't like and see what somebody would or wouldn't propose for the building.
Let me interrupt you just real quick because that's part, you're getting into another question I have. So what's the process after this?
Great. So that would be the process. If these regulations pass, then ostensibly the RDA board would feel comfortable, that's you guys as the council, the RDA board as well, would feel comfortable letting our realtor market the property so we can begin to consider proposals. Because the zoning allows something, doesn't mean that's exactly what has to happen, because you are, as the RDA board, the property owners, and hence the city is the property owner, so you can consider what you want. Just like anyone who owns a single-family home in a zone that we have created that allows duplexes doesn't have to sell out by law to a duplex. You can keep that house as long as you want. You decide what to do. The RDA board, when they passed the resolution to consider to take offers on the property, anticipated that the removal of the building might have to be a consequence of that action. We'll have to see. We don't know yet. We'll have to take proposals. But that would be the process. The RDA board could then turn Orden loose, in effect, to start getting proposals, and we'll bring some of those to you to see what you like and don't like. The process is far from over. We're just
Can
trying
you
to move on.
speak to the parking and what that, again, repeat what that changes?
So the parking adds a half a space per residential unit. And what that does is, for example, and it's all, I should have been more clear about this in the presentation. Our parking was updated recently too, to be reflective of the number of bedrooms. So a single family unit or a single family apartment, that's the word I'm looking for, bedroom. A single bedroom apartment has a certain parking requirement. A 3-bedroom apartment has a different requirement. And under this rule, for example, a 3-bedroom apartment would require 3 spaces because it currently requires 2.5, and we're adding a half to it. So 3-bedroom apartments would be assessed a 3-space requirement. That's going to be difficult for developers to deal with, but that's the decision that we're making, just to say, well, we're going to consider this parking and not be underparked for these projects. It may mean that nobody builds 3-bedroom units. We don't know. We'll have to see how that pans out. So
There also is discussion around the height. What is the current height of City Hall?
This building?
Uh-huh.
I really wish I knew that, since you're asking me and I don't.
It's 2 stories.
It's 2 stories. I would guess, looking out at it. I'm not going to guess because I'll get it wrong. Sorry. I don't.
That would be something I'd be curious to know. Now, considering it is a significant step down in the back here, about how far does it go down
I
in
don't know how many
elevation?
feet it drops down either. If I was to guess that, I'd say 10.
Okay, and that would be about a story?
Mm-hmm.
So it's conceivable that anything built back there would then conceivably be 5 stories with the 6-story restriction. Okay.
And that does actually bring up a point that I'd love to make if you'd allow me. We talk about the apartments a lot. We talk about the housing a lot because that is a critical component. It's something that concerns folks. But this property is not zoned multifamily. This property is already zoned mixed use. So what that means is, and it's on State Street and Vine Street, well, State Street and Jones Court, Arlington. I'm going to get that wrong too. But on State Street, we require a commercial component. It cannot be simply 480 apartment units, period. It'll have a commercial component. It'll have to by the zoning that we have. And it's not like this property or any of the other properties in the MCCD zone in the downtown area were zoned mixed use by mistake. Commercial zoning, for the years and years that it was in place, did not bring the city what it was looking for. Mixed use zoning brings the redevelopment that you want for downtown. That's why it's mixed use zoning here.
Is there a point where design guidelines would come into play that deal with potential historical preservation or historical look and feel, that sort of thing? When would that be?
We are working on, we have design guidelines right now. They're in place for all of the downtown zone, and those would still be applied, but they're just design guidelines, and I'm not going to get into the full 40-minute presentation about the difference between a design guideline and a development standard. Right now we have design guidelines that talk about traditional materials and good design, and they have lots of components. But what we want to have for the rest of downtown as we really see redevelopment happen, as the discussion's gone anyway, are development standards that are written right into code that dictate what that is. Now, we don't know exactly what kind of historic look and feel we want. That'll take some planning, and we're ready to issue a contract on that. It's not quite done yet, but we'll be looking at that to harden up those standards.
And when we think about the resources, because that's come up a lot in the services that the city has to put in, is that assessed as part of any project that is going to potentially go in here?
Yes.
So that will
any
be
project that came in here would go through what's called a public services adequacy review, an adequate public services review as part of a master site plan. We have actually, though, in the downtown area, that's been done for a long time. So it'll be kind of perfunctory, but we'll go back through it. This area has been, the infrastructure for the area of downtown has been planned for an overall 100 units per acre to support that. We'll be well under that. So,
Jared, sorry
Go
to
ahead.
interject. Is that a part of our impact fees and what developers are required to
it is
also pay into when they develop?
Yeah, it is. And actually, the newest of the impact fees is the parks impact fee, which we're collecting from developers, not from citizens, from developers, quite a lot of money to offset the impact to our park infrastructure from new development.
And when you talk about, or it was brought up a lot about apartments being built in the area, but some of those are permanent condos, right? Not everything being built. Some have been converted now to condos. Is that correct?
That's true.
A couple of the buildings are now permanent for purchase, not, okay. That's true. And then the last question I have is, and I realize we are not talking about necessarily what's going to happen with this building, but I think it's important to clear the air to understand what are some of the issues with this building currently?
With the building itself, the biggest one would be what we call change of use. So when you change the use of a building, so for example, from public facility like this, the way we're using it now, to something different. So you want to turn it into a series of restaurants. It goes through what's called change of use, because building codes are based on occupancies. And that use as a restaurant would be a different occupancy. When you go through change of use, you bring everything up to code. That includes the seismic codes. And in Utah, that's a big deal. So those are some of the issues. I think, and I don't want to get this wrong, and I'm not the facilities guy, but I understand we have sewer problems. I know we have boiler problems. We have roof problems. We have ADA problems throughout the building as well. So all of those things in keeping the building would have to be brought up to standard, and that would carry a cost.
Okay, and primarily the biggest one would be the seismic upgrades.
Seismic, I think, would dwarf the other things, yeah.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Other questions for Jared?
Jared, just a simple question for you. Would you say that the planning department, the city council, has done a good or a bad job on portraying what the process is and what we are trying to do?
I think it gets muddled as we try to, because there are so many tacks on it all the time. We've probably approached it. I don't know. I'm going to say we keep trying to bring it back to say we're discussing only these things. We're not talking about removal of the building. There are no codified historic protections for the building right now. We're not talking about removing any of those. But yeah, in terms of message, I don't know that we've done a good job as staff of getting that message out there to people, that what we're trying to do is, somebody also said in comments that cities don't make any money. And they don't create any wealth, they don't create any money, and that's absolutely true. We are always working with taxpayers' money. So we have a duty to use that to the best of our abilities to do good things for all of the community. And there are a lot of people in this community. As people have pointed out, it's a much bigger town than it used to be. I don't think we've done a good job of projecting that what we're trying to do with the sale of this property is generate funds that will be able to be rolled back into other projects in the downtown area to help that revitalize, to help it redevelop the way we've been trying to get it redeveloped, as Ms. Paul said, for at least 20 years, probably longer than that. We probably need to do that message better. I think it's great that there's so many people out tonight, that there's people involved in this and talking about it, and I know that seems counterintuitive for a guy like me that talks for a living at this podium. But I love that we have people from the community out that are being involved in the process, even if we don't always agree, and we're never all going to agree, but we get better ideas when we're all talking about it. And that's the kind of the messaging we've missed, I think, as staff. We're trying to work on that. So.
Well, and I would ask that people really do your research. Don't be blinded by one issue. You know, the historic, the good feelings on this building. It's a much, much larger issue than that. And we as a council have to consider all of those issues. We can't have tunnel vision on one thing. And we just ask for your patience, your trust, and have an open mind and work with us. I received a memo from, an email from Rachel Moreau earlier today. She talked about she's in discussion with a developer on her own to make a restaurant cooperative here or whatever. That's wonderful. That's great. That's progress. Let's work in that direction. If you really feel strongly about this, then be proactive. Don't be negative. Don't be tearing down. Don't be ruining the process. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Pam, do you want to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Rosalba.
Thank you. I really just, first of all, I really do appreciate all of you being here tonight. I don't think we've said that. And I think it's important. We appreciate the emails and we will keep them. I've read them all and I've responded to all of you. And I didn't run for office because it was just a hobby. It's more than just a hobby, but because a lot of it was in my backyard. and development was here. So, and I don't want to be gerrymandered out of my own house. So I get the sentiment. The flip side to this is we as a council and as staff have really worked hard to get to this part of the code. And I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear, but we've worked really hard, and I think with this new administration, we really have worked hard in doing that and making that effort where we were kind of told we couldn't before. So I think that's also important to consider. We keep talking about a 480 complex total on this site. There was a developer here earlier that lives on 53rd, or that has a project on 53rd, and he could have done a development for up to 1,000. I know his project just got approved not too long ago, and I think it's less than that. How many square acres did he apply for again?
His project's still in development.
In development,
but he's looking at 3 or so.
Yeah, and it's not as big, and we can consider that as a council moving forward. That is still within our preview. But there's also conditional uses. Whoever buys this property can consider something else, and there's a lot of developers in this room right now. And so I would love for you all to know who they are and really work with them like Rachel is doing, because we are a vote, but we also hear you, but you also have an opportunity in developing those relationships long term. But I also appreciate what developers have been doing for Murray, and your voice is not going unheard. I will say that again, your voice is not going unheard. There have been a lot of changes that developers have made in each one of our districts. Is it what we want to see? Not necessarily, but we also have to think about the long term. We also have 3 generational families that live in one home. And where do we place those families? We need a space. And whether it's this property or another property, I would love that opportunity to say, you have a space. The next phase, we already talked about the next phase, and maybe it's identifying some of those deed restrictions, whether it's we keep the developer wants to keep the facade or not keep the facade, down to what we do with the infrastructure once it's taken apart, working with other community organizations and really identifying, could they help with some of that mixed income use or mixed income properties. I don't know what that looks like, but your voice matters in this next phase. And also, and that a part of it is adapting and reusing. Lastly, I will say this feeling of Arlington is the save-all or catch-all to this emotion of keeping a historical downtown. And I've said this to Rachel. Look, I attended Judge Memorial, and they are in the process of selling and destroying that property. That property is very triggering for me in a negative way. My daughter goes there now, and I didn't realize I had an emotional reaction to it because it was a negative time in my life. But I will say this, I'm very proud of what they have been doing and what they're doing for the future of keeping St. Anne's. Arlington was not always a positive feeling for a lot of kids that looked like me. I have many stories that have been told to me about kids hiding in the bushes because of racism, because they were being bullied. And those families don't care whether this property stays or not. And so that's the flip side we don't hear. Does that mean that Murray City should be in a place to make sure that everybody's feelings are okay with this property in a positive or negative way? No. But I will leave you with this. Cameron Dill, the leader of ULCT, said to me, once you destroy a historical property, you can never recoup it. And I think that's really what the sentiment is for me, is once we destroy this building, we can never bring it back. And that feel of Murray, we are missing that feel somehow, some way. And that's why you guys are all here. And I want you to know, like, for me personally, we need to identify what that is. Whether it's this building, whether it's a community center, whether it's replacing the library into another place, but building community needs to happen in some way. And I think identifying what we are missing in our city may be the next phase of this and what we can utilize this property for. So thank you all again.
Jared, I just have one quick question.
Sure.
Thank you. Can you explain, Clark emailed me and was talking about a deeds restriction.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me?
So it's a pretty broad topic, deed restrictions, but basically because the city owns this property as the RDA, you have more latitude, you won't be declaring it surplus, et cetera, and you can sell it the way that anybody would sell any property. So depending on what you decide is the benefit versus the cost, you could deed restrict it in certain ways. And it would mean that if they are, you basically can choose the developer for it that you like, the proposal for it that you like. And some of that consideration will be money, absolutely. And anybody dealing with property, that'll be a consideration. But some of that consideration, as I think was said by others too, will be, what does this developer want to do with the property? Where are they going to put the things? That's what you can deed restrict. You could deed restrict it to say, we don't want to sell for more than, we want any apartment units to be in the back, or we want lesser units or whatever. You're going to have to weigh all those things against.
Okay.
You have a fiduciary duty to the 50,000 people that live in the city. So you're going to have to weigh that versus the other items, but you do get to think about what you want to deed restrict. You don't have to make that decision as a group. That won't be easy,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
Okay.
But those would be deed restrictions.
Thank you for everything.
You bet.
Thank you for meeting with me.
No problem.
Okay, let's get it back to the current ordinance amendment. I would appreciate a motion.
Madam, I will make an motion that we adopt an ordinance amending sections 17.170.120 and 17.170.140 and 17.170.160 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the Murray City Center District MCCD zone.
I second it.
All right, is there discussion, further discussion on the motion? It has been motioned and seconded.
Nothing for me.
Seeing none, Brooke, would you take the vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the motion has passed unanimously. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. I hope you've learned more than you knew before you came here. I sure have, from you.
Councilwoman Turner, could we have a 5-minute break, please?
Sure.
If no one objects, thank you.
Is that okay with council?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay,
please.
we'll break for 5 minutes. Thank you. Well, we've surpassed our 5 minutes. Let's get started again. All council members have returned. So we can start with business items. The first business item to be considered is a resolution approving an agreement between Murray City Corporation and Life Safety Inspection Vault LLC for the collection, organization, and storage of fire and life safety inspection reports. Joseph Middleman and Steve Roberson presenting. Where's Steve? Oh, there he is.
Nice haircut, Chief. Chief got a fresh haircut. Looking very fresh, Chief.
Yes.
Oh.
Welcome, Chief.
Well, thanks you for allowing us to be here, and I'm honored and humbled, very humbled after I've watched many council meetings that you guys have an intriguing job that's has a lot of components that go to it. So I appreciate the few minutes that I've got here. So the agreement that we've talked about in the committee on the whole is between LIV and Murray City. The LIV program is what allows us to do a couple of things. It allows us to receive reports, just as a reminder, and then for those citizens out there watching, for sprinkler systems that they're tagged so we know that they've actually been properly inspected as well as maintained. It also allows us to see the items that they're deficient in so we can help you as a business actually reach out and say, these are the things that are important to keep you safe out there. And that allows our inspectors to see those reports directly, as well as on alarm panels, and then also your alarm monitoring companies that are out there. When you change companies, you won't have us calling you saying, hey, did you change companies, because we have a letter of a cease of service out there, because we'll see a new one activate. And so that's really neat. Other ones are, how does LIV improve Murray? And I think there's 3 main parts that we sidetracked with a few details of how the LIV system works when we were talking, and I think these 3 things are pretty pointed. It's going to upload the inspection documents for us here in Murray. It also is going to assist businesses and apartments with staying alarmed and making sure when our citizens go to sleep at night and so forth, that they know that their system has an alarm system. Otherwise, we're being notified if it doesn't. And that's important for us to get called. And also the most, one of the neat parts about it is it doesn't come with a cost to the city or to the businesses, because our inspection companies are already including this within their system. We're just not using it before. We do have a fantastic, and I want to thank the attorney's office for all the work on this agreement. The agreement of ours is none like any other cities out there, where our folks in the fire marshal's office will be sending these notices out rather than a third party, and that really institutes the care and the effort going out on our employees, and I think that's important to our businesses and citizens. So at that, do you guys have any questions or anything?
You know, you made a great presentation in Committee of the Whole last time we heard this subject, and my questions were answered at that time.
Me as well. Thank you.
Same here.
Thank you so much. I think I learned a lot in that process, and understanding that the company that we are going to be utilizing is kind of unique in what they do, and probably the only ones, right?
The only ones that will do it like we would like to
Right.
do it. Yeah.
Right, and it will will free us from having to do a lot of the legwork when they already have the system.
It's going to save us man hours out, people hours out on the streets.
Which saves tax citizens money.
Yes,
So,
it does.
thank you.
So, yeah, thank you, Council.
All right, if there are no more questions, I would take a motion.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve an agreement between Murray City Corporation and Life Safety Inspection Vault LLC for the collection, organization, and storage of fire and life safety inspection reports as presented.
I second it.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion further?
No.
Okay, seeing none, Brooke, would you take the vote?
Aye.
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 Chief, I would like to thank you for being here on since you're on vacation, so I want to say aye to your presentation.
Hey.
So thank you.
Thank you. It's always fun. Anytime you can hang out with these guys, it's always a vacation, right?
Aye. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Now we'll go to the second business item, which is to consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city, the Utah Community Action Head Start Program, and Murray City School District to lease city property. Doug Hill presenting. Hi, Doug.
Thank you. As you just mentioned, this is an agreement between Murray City and the Murray School District and the Community Action Program, which runs the Head Start preschool program over on property that the city owns on 6100 South, 73 West. That's the old library building and an old fire station that the city owns. And the agreement extends the lease that the city has had with the school district for a number of years on a year-to-year basis. So that's really it.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, I'll give it to the council for questions or a motion.
I'll move to motion that we consider a resolution approving the interlocal cooperation agreement between the city, the Utah Community Action Head Start Program, and Murray City School District to lease city property.
I'll second.
Second? Great. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Okay, seeing none. Brooke, would you take the vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Third business item is to consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and the Murray City School District for the license and access to a city communication tower. Doug Hill, it's yours again.
All right, thanks. As you know, the city owns a communication tower at about 5600 South, 300 West. It does have currently some city communication equipment on it for the fire department and the power department. The Murray School District approached the city and would like to place some of their equipment on that tower that will help them to have better coverage for their education network that is used by the students that are in the Murray School District. And so this is an agreement that allows the school district to place that equipment on the tower to make sure that it gets maintained and also protects the city from any liability associated with that installation.
Okay, thank you. We also discussed this in the committee of the whole, so that was very helpful. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks.
All right. I will now send it to the council for discussion, a motion.
You know, before we make a motion, I would just like to point out that these two business items are what people in the previous portion of the meeting are talking about. What makes Murray a special place? Our relationship with our school district and the ability to work together and provide at no cost things that benefit citizens. And so it's a shame that they're not here. They can't see that we are still doing this, and we still strive to do this every time we get a chance. But I would like it on record to be said that that is our goal, and we are fulfilling it.
Great. Thank you for the comment. Okay. Could I have a motion?
I'd like to move to consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and the Murray City School District, parentheses, for the license and access to a city communication tower.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Brooke, would you take the vote?
Mr. Rickesy.
Aye.
Mr. Markham.
Aye.
Ms. Cotter.
Aye.
Ms. Dominguez.
Aye.
Ms. Turner.
Aye. Motion passes Unanimously. Okay, we're done with the business items. Let's go to the mayor's report and questions. Well, Doug, you're the mayor.
Well, thank
What
you.
would you
Well,
like to say?
first of all, let me excuse Mayor Hells, who is not able to be here tonight. He asked that I sit in his place, so I just have a few items that I wanted to report on from our department heads. First of all, we have 2 new police officers that just recently graduated from the police academy, so they will be out amongst our patrol officers now and supporting the efforts of our police department in the community. In addition, the city police department just promoted Dylan Sorensen as one of our new sergeants in the police department. So congratulations to Dylan.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Is that related to a Kim Sorensen?
He is the son of Kim Sorensen, another employee of the city, yes, so. Our Public Works Director, Russ Cackler, reported that so far this year, they have been out on 23 storms and spread out 5,000 tons of salt. So they have been very busy. They're exhausted. They're hoping that we're nearing the end of the snowfall, probably like most of us are. But certainly congratulations to our police or to our Public Works Department, but also so that you know, and I think our citizens know, it's not just Public Works that assists in this effort. It's our Parks and Recreation Department, it's our Power Department, our Police Department, Fire Department. Everybody gets together and assists in these kind of major efforts. So with
Quickly
all
on that piece, I just wanted to say thanks to them specifically. It was that big storm came in right as we were finishing up the last council meeting, and the amount of snow was the most I've seen in a long, long time sitting down on the valley. And so it was cleared very quickly, and the roads were safe very quickly. So I want to say thank you to all the people involved.
You
in
know,
that
not
effort.
only the roads, but I live down by the Parkway.
Oh, yeah.
And the section of Murray Parkway Trail right by my house by Bullion, it was plowed by 3:30 that same day.
Wow.
I mean, there are people who don't see snowplows after a storm like that for a couple of days.
Right.
And that's how efficient and conscientious our guys are.
So with all of this snow, there is another concern that we have now. Our attention is turning to flooding, and just want to let our citizens know, as well as you, that there are discussions going on about how we can prepare for flooding that is inevitable with this much snow. And we will start putting together a plan on how to inform the public where they can get sandbags and let volunteers know how they can get involved in helping their neighbors and their citizens that live along the creeks and streams and things like that. So it's on our mind, and certainly something now that we'll be focusing on between now and probably well into July is what we're expecting the runoff to go that long. We are planning, the fire department is planning a emergency operations center exercise with all of our departments, and we will focus on flooding in the city, and we'll be practicing for that kind of an emergency.
Everyone talks about the floods back in the 80s that happened, 83. When was that the last time we had a significant flood here in Murray?
Well, that was the last big one, but we have had many floods over the years since that time that have, affected a lot of homes and apartment complexes along the creek, particularly Little Cottonwood Creek. Okay. And we have flooded Murray Park in the past. Of course, it's kind of designed as a flood retention basin anyway. We know where those problem areas are, and we have had those issues several times over the years, but this is kind of one of they're saying this is kind of a once in a 25, 30-year storm. So I expect whether or not we reach the levels of 83 and 84 is yet to be determined, but I expect it to be bigger than anything that we've had since then.
And you would say we should caution our citizens then, if they're playing around some of those water areas, to be careful not to slip and fall in and
Yeah,
that sort of thing, because it'll be fast
Yeah,
water.
I would certainly not let anybody, any children or anybody close to our creeks and streams. Usually the runoff, and it's hard to know when it's going to start, but typically it starts around Memorial Day is typically when the waters get really big.
Okay, thank you.
Just so everybody knows, our library website is currently down, and they're working to try to get it up and running. And the Murray Mansion renovation has started. So if you were to go over there today, you'd see a lot of dirt and a big hole being dug. It's expected that the Murray Mansion renovation will be completed by June of this year. And then the Murray Theater renovation has also started, and it's expected that that project will take about a year or so. By February of next year, they're estimating that that project should be completed. And that's everything that I have to report. Any questions?
I have a question. Talking about flooding and sandbags, I'm wondering, are our sandbags made out of plastic or burlap?
I think they're a plastic product, but I'm just speculating on what I've seen recently. I don't know for sure. I could find that out.
Okay.
But it seems to me that there's some kind of it's a plastic material, but I don't know.
Okay.
I'll find out and let you know.
Okay. If it is plastic, could you find out what the difference between burlap and plastic would be, the cost?
You bet.
Thank you, Doug. And if there are no more
I have one comment.
Oh, yes.
So the mayor, Diane, and I in the power department were just in DC, and we'll give a little report on that. But we had a great meeting. I think we learned a lot.
Also.
And there's a lot to come. So yes, I just wanted to thank the mayor and being there and inviting us to go, and the council, and I encourage the rest of the council to go to APPA in Seattle and continue to that dialogue and conversation and learning about what's coming in power.
That would be great if everyone got to go to the APPA. That would be wonderful. Yeah, that would be great. Yep.
Sounds
and one
good.
thing, I watched the weather lady. She says every time we get a snowstorm, it's like someone's shaking the snow globe, and we got another storm. So hold on, we're getting more.
Thank you. We are adjourned.